Thank you so much, Caleris. Very excited to get into this Terran versus Zerg here. Nathanius joined by Rotterdam. And it is sure to be a fun one, Kev. These two have faced off many a time before, and often it gets down, it gets dirty, it gets ugly. Let's see who takes this one as we kick off this best of 5, spawning in the bottom right position as the blue Terran player. Give a cheer for MaSa!
Has been practicing very hard lately over in South Korea, and he said he's looking for a top 8 finish. But to do that, he has to overcome this amazing Zerg player in the left top side. We're looking in the main base. Off. One of the favorites here. It is Scarlett.
Unsurprisingly, crowd cheering a little loud. Love the full NA sign, by the way. That is the matchup that we are looking at here. Both fantastic players, but they have gotten into some shenanigans with some series before. I think one of my favorite times was like a challenger final, semi-final last year. MaSa he was just like, you know what? I'm going to proxy every single game, whatever. And he actually ended up taking Scarlett in like a very, very close back and forth series. And it was just weird stuff like that happens. Big series, of course they play a lot all the time, but this is just one of those matchups where Scarlett, with like more of the big tournament prestige, some of the championships, should still drop series to MaSa all the time. So it's one of those weird matchups where these two players know each other extremely well, and you kind of end up on that like stepping ladder of metagaming where I think you'll do this, so I'm going to do this, but I'm anticipating that you're going to respond to this without even knowing I'm doing it. And well, Kev, what I'm really trying to say is these games can get weird.
It could be a proper clown fiesta, but we're not there yet. So far, everything is quite standard in the first game. I'm really excited to see what MaSa has in store for us. We already saw a little bit of Scarlett, her ZVT this morning, but he didn't really reveal that much. Todd said he loved the Broodlord play. Yeah, it was good, but we also saw 2 very aggressive builds, and I think especially in the first game, Vindicta could have handled it a lot better. Even in the last game, I think there was some potential to make some better plays, buy some more time. I think that Scarlett's going to have to bring out more to defeat MaSa here in the best of 5, because I think MaSa is really damn good in this matchup, not just historically, but I think especially right now he's been practicing it a lot, and he feels good, he feels confident, so I'm looking forward to see what he can do.
Yeah, considering this matchup in a pretty good place, I think, for Terran right now with the number of options that they have on the table. We have seen a whole bunch of variety out of everybody. And I think when you say the word variety, MaSa's name comes to mind. Really like Scarlett going for this fast overlord speed to get information against MaSa. You need to know what he's up to. Is it going to be something crazy like fast battle cruisers? Is it going to be a crazy fast third command center? MaSa, you wouldn't do this versus a Zerg, but he's gone for some very bold strategies, and even in the beginning here, he wants to deny the scouting. This is why that overlord speed is so important. He lifts the barracks to push the overlord back. On this map, you can't kill the overlord there, but being able to say, hey, you don't know if I'm sending out a bunch of Hellions, you don't know if I'm using a command center as part of my wall. Those are all pieces of information that Scarlett wants to have.
But isn't it information as well, seeing the barracks float and only seeing 3 Marines? Isn't that information too?
If he's building a starport behind it, it's still hard to know whether he could just fly back and get a late stim, though. Like, that's not the craziest thing to do either.
Alrighty, well, we have a couple of Marines that somehow made their way to the other side of the map. The Overlord is going to take a look in the main base, but there isn't much to see yet. It will see that the barracks made its way home. There is the 3rd command center all the way in the left bottom side of the main base. First Queen takes quite a bit of damage, but it's going to be quite hard. This is a kind of a weird move out there, right, with the 3 Marines. I mean, it's cool, but
it's not something you really see, and I think it's MaSa just hoping to catch Scarlett a little bit off guard. I mean, cleaning up some of the Zerglings is nice. If he can grab a Queen, that would be really big here.
Wow, those are some very good shots of these Hellions on the Lynx, by the way.
Yeah, getting a lot of damage done. I was going to say, a few of them injured up front. Try to rotate those to the back can help a lot. That weak Queen, oh, he's got his sights set on her almost, and turns around, changes his mind at the last minute, and is going to escape with 2 of the Hellions. But like I said, see, he's going to start the stim over there. Now, this could be one of those fake outs. We've already seen it multiple times in this tournament, but he starts the barracks, so he is committing to this, and MaSa is going to break out the bio. We've seen him do pretty much everything over the course of the year, so that's kind of the cool part here. Is it is really an anything goes type matchup.
We don't have a starport though yet, right? Isn't that weird?
That is unusual. He took the second gas in the main very, very late, and he's just now getting a first gas in the natural too. So yeah, he's actually only now taking those 2 additional geysers. So he's going to be able to get up to a good barracks count. And normally, if you kind of skip the gas and go into barracks production early, you're thinking to yourself, is it a big 2-base push? Well, no, because it was also a fast 3rd command center build. So 1-1's going to start up. Definitely on the greedier side, right? You lose your Hellions. You don't have the factory building anything like siege tanks. So you're quite susceptible to some sort of attack. But Scarlett doesn't really have what she would need to punish him for that. The Baneling Nest is only halfway done. Yeah. And there are still a few Hellions left over from the start.
With all those reactors done already and putting those barracks down on those reactors and now extra barracks going up, I feel like MaSa is going to have a very high Marine count very quickly into this game, right? This actually seems like a kind of a smooth and cool build.
Yeah, he's been very greedy with the setup, but Scarlett hasn't really tried to punish it in any way. She's just leveling up that tech. Pretty nice timing on the lair. She'll have fast enough Baneling speed that I think it should be able to line up with a medevac timing push, right? We don't have any of those on the way. Did he start the starport yet? Am I crazy? Okay, yeah, he's got it going on to the reactor. So Baneling speed won't be too far away, but you're right, Kev. This should be a lot of Marines that come out with it. But he just goes straight down and takes that 3rd base too. So it feels very greedy what we're seeing. Hasn't really invested a whole lot into the pressure doing damage. Straight into the armory as well. So trying not to miss a beat on the macro side of things is MaSa.
I'd like to see MaSa try to find some economic damage in the near future though. Look at that SV, it's stripping out. Like you can use a medevac, I guess, and drop it on the other side.
Oh, yeah. All right, he's playing Pio.
I mean, Scarlett, her economy is very strong, right? 68 drones straight up. Now 4th base is on the way. Baneling speed halfway done. 1-1 upgrades. Almost halfway done. I do really feel that the first time that MaSa moves out properly, that he commits, that he wants to get some damage done, it's very important for MaSa that he actually gets some damage done. Otherwise, I'm afraid we're going to see an 81, 82 drone Scarlett, and it's going to be a never-ending amount of Lings and Banes and Queens and probably the entire map covered in creep.
Yeah. Things that we know Scarlett to be quite good at. So MaSa getting a 2nd factory back at home, but this is going to be the first real pressure that he gets to put on, Kev. You're talking about it. He needs to get something done. There are 19 Banelings, so just turning those Hellions into Hellbats to try and soak is not going to be enough to punch through this.
The Banes are a bit out of position. Imagine still before we get something on this 4th base. You're never going to get that. Scarlett is here already. There's a little bit of damage on that hatch, but that's not going to be enough. Scarlett did 80 workers at this point, Nate. Did Scarlett lose a single drone so far in this game? Like 1? No, 0.
Well,
all right.
The Hellion poke mostly just got Lings, and Mutalisks are going to come out for Scarlett. This map is long, so if these Mutas, there's a couple spots you can hide them too, so there's the potential for big damage to get done. And it's going to make it hard to get across for MaSa if there's just too many Ling Bane to push through. Does get one of the Queens, but the base is up and running. Infestation Pit is coming through. MaSa has his +2 upgrades on the way, but he hasn't really been able to get anything done so far, Kev. There's the next round coming in, though, with that tank in the back to anchor.
I feel like this is kind of it right now. The Mutas are out. The Mutas are going to try to pick up this tank. Can the medevac save the tank? Yes, it can. Good play there by MaSa. I actually feel this is going well right now. Most of the Banelings are gone. There's a lot of additional Banes morphing. That's a good scan as well, but it really feels like, I don't want to say do or die right here for MaSa, but this is important. If MaSa gets this base, Nate, this is a massive victory.
That's a huge pickup. That siege tank so clutch, getting that one shot off on the Banelings before this fight happened. Now Scarlett is cranking out tons of Lings. Transfuse goes onto the hatchery. She wants to envelop this army, hit it from all sides, and just clean this push up. But the creep shot doesn't even reach all the way to the back. So the Mutas are going to come in from the side. Now the Marines are able to get on top of those, but with this many Lings and this many Banelings, Scarlett will unseat MaSa's siege, but the next round is still a-coming.
Yeah, MaSa had so many units on the way. Just imagine if those units were actually there immediately. Then I think that fight goes a million times better for MaSa. Now it actually feels like a pretty big victory for Scarlett. Scarlett keeps her base alive. That's very important, but actually takes care of the majority of those Marines as well. And where MaSa's army felt massive like 40 seconds ago, it suddenly feels very tiny right now. And Scarlett's still not done. Gets another tank, gets a few more Marines as well. All right, well, that backfired for MaSa real quick.
It's really hard to make these pushes out with just Marine tank, and MaSa getting knocked all the way back to his natural expansion. That factory as well, nothing coming out of it, just the one tank. And you have to be so cautious because we know Scarlett loves that Ling play, loves that Muta play, takes the map control, pushes everything back. The only thing that does concern me a little bit, her upgrades started quite a bit later. So for MaSa, if he could get some of these smaller fights, it would be really nice. But really, Scarlett's edge has been in the overwhelming numbers, really playing Zerg the way it's meant to be played, Rotterdam.
Yeah, man, it really felt that MaSa had so many units that were about to show up there. They were almost there. And then I think it's only so much harder for these banelings to make their way across that little bridge. But perfect timing there by Scarlett. Scarlett felt like she was able to take the fight. She took the fight, and it was a big victory.
And seeing those fights, those Zerglings do not hold up right now to those 2-2 Marines. So MaSa has that nice position. Also, not only is the SCV stuck, +3 attack has not started yet. So that's another reason for us to be staring at that poor stranded soul, Roddy.
Scarlett actually floating quite a bit of minerals there. Maybe waiting for Hive-Tech to finish up, wants to maybe get Ultra soon. But it's actually important to get a few more units out, especially right now with the upgrade deficit that Scarlett is in.
Yeah, she's going to try to move in on top of this army. Once again, second tank is sieging. The Banelings are going to be able to get not close enough, but the tanks are still picked off. So what she needs to do is just get another round out as MaSa lands the 4th command center. This is a really important moment, though, because Terran making this push while getting that 4th gives time for the planetary to finish.
Wow.
There's a Thor on the way, and suddenly things are looking really good for MaSa. That upgrade advantage paying off in spades here as he makes his way into the 3rd base of Scarlett, but pushing onto the creep, you have to be so cautious. Almost wonder if he should have tried to turn around and focus down that hatchery first.
Really good focus fire there in the end on a couple of these banes, but most of the Marines did go down, so Scarlett kind of pushing MaSa back. I believe we had a little skirmish on the left side, because MaSa was getting a couple of drones somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where that was. MaSa's so deep on creep, though. Like, it was doing well, and such a shame, by the way, that +3 attack never started for MaSa, because if MaSa would have been able to get those 3-3 upgrades now, then we once again have the same scenario. But now it's going to be very awkward, where MaSa will only have +3 armor on his Marines, but not that +3 attack. And the first Broodlord's Nate are on the way.
Yeah, that upgrade disadvantage was really huge for Scarlett and won't be behind that attack upgrade. Great focus fire on the Banelings. Muta's going to try to keep these medevacs from just pulling everything back. There is the Big Daddy Thor to try and anchor this down against the Mutas and a siege tank behind it. So really good setup, but not enough Marines to establish the position. Another round is coming, but the Thor is dead. And that +3 armor. I'm not sure that there's a timing off +3 armor, Roddy.
Well, if they're just fighting Middleists, maybe, Nate, but that's pretty much going to be it. Now +3 attack starts, and MaSa realizes his mistake. Is going to be very sad about that. I kind of like when MaSa took his own 4th base, because he could continue to push towards that top side of the map. And obviously, MaSa did get 1 base, but we still have that base at 9 o'clock as well. And now the Broodlords are out. And this map is actually not as big as some of those other maps, so it's a lot easier for Broodlords to have a very big impact on these games.
Yeah, trying to cover off those pathways so that the Broodlords aren't being pulled back and forth. We did get an update on the SCV, by the way. Mining up minerals opens up pathways. He's free. He got home, ladies and gentlemen. The SCV got home. But now just waiting for that +3 attack. Scarlett has adrenal glands, and worker count-wise still okay, but Terran player with the 4th planetary secured is really nice. There's not a lot of creep by there. But if some Ling Run buys are able to get in and can distract MaSa from putting on more pressure, that's going to hurt a lot.
Scarlett, her army is tiny, though, right? It's only 65 army supply at this point. There isn't that much money in the bank either. Now, obviously, Broodlords are super intimidating and always very difficult to attack into, but this is awesome for MaSa. MaSa is going to be able to find a couple of drones here and finds the hatchery as well right when it finishes up, and of course was trying to create 2 problems at once for Scarlett. MaSa's playing a really good game, and now I think it starts getting a little bit awkward for Scarlett, because you're still floating minerals. Whoa, the Broodlords were exposed. Oh
my goodness, catching 3 of the Broodlords. The Marines get all of them, and that is a huge win for MaSa. Wow. Gets rid of all of the Broodlords that were on the map, and you're talking about the money that Scarlett has. Well, she's going to build 5 more Broodlords, and that's basically it. But MaSa has so much left to use on the ground. He's got tons of money coming in. Scarlett needs to get something going, a big counterattack in some way. She really needs to pull MaSa around. Encircling this army is going to be so important right now. It's really hard to call this right now, because the Banelings need to get onto these Marines. If MaSa can split, there's not a whole lot of firepower. There's really not that many Zerglings to support this either, only 13.
Yep, there's only 15 Banelings on the map at this point. I think a few more Banes are morphing. It's 25 now, so that should actually be enough to deal with these Marines. But at the same time, MaSa's going to try to be annoying at 9 o'clock once again, making it so awkward for these super slow Broodlords to be everywhere at once. They're a little bit too late for that party on the north side. At least that base at 9 o'clock will be safe for now, but Scarlett is going to end up losing a few more drones.
Yeah, these Marines, though, the unit count was just so sick. The Broodlords are actually able to get a little bit done there. Now, man, just watching the rest of these cryptos come out. So +3 upgrades are finally finishing for Scarlett. The upgrade disadvantage that we talked about earlier will be completely off the board. And the drops have been putting on so much pressure. But MaSa's taken another base on the south side. And if he can continue to secure the expansions while putting this pressure on, I don't see how Scarlett gets across the map with her Broodlords.
Wow, Godspeed, MaSa, Godspeed. Incredibly impressive stuff that I'm watching here, Nate, over the last few minutes. It didn't even feel that it was going that good anymore for MaSa after that first push. Didn't really work out the way that it perhaps was supposed to. But over the last few minutes, MaSa is everywhere at once. MaSa is finding openings, and Scarlett is just not able to get the fights that she's looking for.
No, I mean, an excellent point earlier, Kev. Like,
just rallying into the army as well. Sorry, Nate.
Yeah, you made an excellent point earlier, is that even though she was able to get up to Broodlord, she just really didn't have a lot of army supplies. So all the money that went into that tech, after that really bad engagement where the 4th base got killed because MaSa had that 2-2 edge for such a long time, he really just catapulted forward in the economy off of that. And this army has been extremely good for him. Scarlett's going to try to go a bit back more into the infestor count, try to get some cost-effective fungals, use the Broodlords to help push this away.
Great Aspire actually gets taken out as well. And that's going to be very awkward for all those Corruptors because the only thing they can attack then are these Medevacs.
And there are plenty of Marines to defend them. She does get one of the ones that are full, so that's a nice little bit there for Scarlett. But down 40 supply, the Marines are coming. There's no more Banelings. Marines are going to get right underneath. Focus firing them down. GG. MaSa takes game number 1.
I felt that MaSa had an opportunity early on. I felt he had a good setup. When Scarlett was able to defend the first time and actually push MaSa all the way back into MaSa's own natural, I was like, all right, this is not looking good, MaSa. Like, there was hope there, but that just didn't really work out. It didn't add up in the way that I think it was supposed to add up. But then he really clawed his way back into that game.
That 2-2, the 2-2 finishing stunned with that much of a lead, because I felt exactly the same way as you. Scarlett she punished the what the Terran player wants to do. You want to rally those units out, get that push going. Okay, another tank shows up. Suddenly it becomes so much harder to dislodge that siege. But Scarlett cleaned it up really nicely, pushed them all the way back, and then it's like, okay, well, 2-2 kicked in. You actually haven't even started your 2-2, so I'm going to have this advantage for a long time. And Scarlett tried to chase back with those Lings and those Mutas, and that's that moment where she realized, she's like, oh my goodness, he was very good on these upgrades. All the Zerglings died, most of the Mutalisks died too, and as she starts to retreat, then MaSa's like, all right, I'm ready for another big fight. And being able to take the 4th base, that's the multitasking that the Terran player needs to make that push, and remember, take the 4th at the same time, because if it gets cleaned up, you don't have the 4th set, another Zerg counterattack comes, and, well, if it's not a planetary yet, the base can't really defend itself that well.
And I love where MaSa took the 4th base as well, right? Because it almost serves as some sort of a checkpoint for all of those units that are being rallied towards the top side of the map, you know, and in case there is a run by. And Scarlett was actually running around with Lings and Banes in the middle left side of the map, but there was no 4th base there. It wasn't on the right side. But then Scarlett's like, well, I'm kind of down in upgrades, so I don't really want to take these real fights at this point. No, really, really impressive stuff by MaSa. I said it before. I think he's in really good shape right now. He felt very confident when I spoke to him. MaSa basically said, I don't really like TvT. The other 2 matchups, it's quite all right. And defeating Drogo, I think that was already a sign for all of us, because you just saw Drogo now today 3-0ing Seoul like it's nothing. MaSa beat that guy, Nate.
Yes, he did. And, I mean, MaSa definitely did it in a MaSa-esque way. But the way that we got to see him play that first map, just an absolutely meticulous usage of the opening, right? Crazy greed into really well-timed upgrades, but it was for a standard bio play. And just overwhelming with more units than you would typically expect, because you were talking about all those reactors. He got the production set up so fast. That does make me wonder if Scarlett will try to be more aggressive in the coming map, if she's able to scout something similar, because he really didn't have a whole lot after the Hellion push before he was able to establish that Marine count.
I really like that first move out as well with the 3 Marines and the Hellions. I thought it was kind of cool, actually.
It's quite cheeky.
Yeah, not something you see super often. Now, I do think in Scarlett's defense, I think the next maps are probably going to be a little bit better for her, right? Because I think this is the smallest map we currently have, and I think in general, small maps are nice for Terrans, especially when it comes to bioplay. You can just be aggressive. You can be really in the face of your opponent. It's going to be a lot harder for MaSa to pull off the same strategy on Disco Bloodbath or even Acropolis and stuff like that, right? So let's not get too ahead of ourselves, but so far so good. And something that we didn't mention yet, but I think the boys and girls at the desk did, is this is a very important one when it comes to the WCS rankings, guys. Both of these players still want to make it to the WCS Global Finals at the end of the year. And for one of them, that dream is going to end after this best of 5.
everything on the line here at WCS Fall as we get ready for game number 2, and already just an explosive, exciting start to this series, because we talk about what we've been seeing in Terran versus Zerg, what we see from MaSa. A lot of people, we know MaSa for some of the cheese that he does. It's pretty common. He's one of the most bold players with how he'll do it. I mean, we got a classic TV style proxy siege tank out of his match against Drogo yesterday, and we know that he's not shy from using battlecruisers either. I remember he was one of the first guys that busted it out in the WESG Canada match against Scarlett in the grand finals at the start of this year when they played in Toronto. So he's got the range too, and I think that's really important. Establishing the bio, saying, okay, well, you're gonna have to respect this, because we've seen a lot of mechs so far here at WCS Fall, but being able to pull off that Marine tank, the execution, the upgrades, the macro, and the splitting, that's just such a powerful weapon to have, where you can't just say, all right, just need to defend Cyclone Hellion.
Let's see what our second map is going to be, Nate Reno. It is lovely to be sitting with you here again, Nate, guessing some games. I believe that's Thunderbird. Yes, it is. So over here on the left top side, we're looking the main base of our Canadian Terran player. He's up 1-0. Give it up for MaSa.
That's the invitation, Kev.
I feel like that's the same sign as I saw last year.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. In the bottom right, the red Zerg player giving Schiffer to start the comeback. She is Scarlett.
I did go last year, so maybe you're onto something there.
Well, let's just say my favorite Blue Flame Hellions aren't just in StarCraft, Kev, as we have a nice big map. And this, I mean, MaSa's bio was really good. I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't feel like Scarlett showed some superb way of dealing with it. Now, of course, if he tries to be greedy, my mind's going to go back to her playing against Vindicta on this map earlier today, where she said, hey, you want to try and go up to 3 command centers with not a whole lot of support. I'm going to be able to punish that in some way.
What is this SCV up to, Nate?
I want to say that this should just be a normal SCV scout, but the Overlord is going to see it. He just didn't want to go through the straight middle. I don't know. Was he trying to hide it? Did he think Scarlett wouldn't send out an Overlord? Or maybe he wants her to think that he proxied something on the left side of the map.
Yeah, that's actually kind of smart, right? If you are, yeah, exactly.
Oh, she turned the Overlord, so it's working.
If you're Scarlett right now, you're like, why is that SCV coming from that angle? That's so awkward. MaSa's got to throw up the fake bunker as well. I mean, if it finishes up, it could be very nice for the Reaper, especially if you want to open up with 2 Reapers, the same way as Kalazu did it earlier. But technically, you're just hoping here that maybe Scarlett ends up pulling like 7 or 8 drones.
Yeah, he's trying to force an overreaction.
Yeah, but there is no overreaction just yet. But that probably means that next game there's going to be an actual proxy, Nate. And
that is what it's like to play versus MaSa. I mean, his TVPs in WCS over the last year were a lot of like the proxy, fake proxy type builds, like really just trying to keep the Protoss players on their toes. And he's done the same thing versus the Zergs as well. But the Reaper's going to come up, and you do not want to let that drone start the base, so Scarlett's going to build the extractor, does not want to lose the drone, of course.
I must say, Terran players really got so good at timing these things out. They're so incredibly annoying. Now the SCV is going to show up. It's going to build an engineering bay or something.
Yep, I like that.
That's actually really cool, because this is a map where normally it's so easy and comfortable for Zerg to have that 3-base setup, right? But whoa!
Oh, well.
Okay.
That's less than ideal. Yeah, and the other thing is as well, like looking at what the Terran players overall have been doing in and out of Korea this year, the SCV scout made its return. Right, we had a lot less blind Reaper openings because so many Zerg players in the GSL and whatnot were going for those fast pools, kind of trying to get the command center cancels. If you play Terran, it really doesn't cost a whole lot to just send the SCV out, see what's happening. That information is so much more valuable than a few minerals. You got mules anyway. But this Overlord comes around, sees that 3rd command center. Scarlett knows it's going to be another very greedy build out of MaSa. And this is where we kind of see, how does she want to deal with this? Is it going to be a battlecruiser build? Is she going to try and do a big roach push again? Maybe get the Baneling nest? It's hard to say.
That's kind of the thing, right? Like, obviously you scout the fact that you're going up against 3 command centers, but that's pretty much the only thing that Scarlett truly knows. And after that first game where we did see bioplay, you gotta be a little bit concerned. Is that gonna be like a hidden fusion core that MaSa really wants to make sure that this fusion core does not get scouted right outside of range of the Zelnaga watchtower as well, right? I believe so. That's actually kind of cool.
Did Scarlett cancel the Overlord speed, or does she have it? Okay, so she canceled Pneumaticized Carapace, so it's like a weird double bluff fake out because MaSa, he proxied the Fusion Core anticipating Overlord speed, but since it's not happening, he could have put it in the main, doesn't want to chance it. The Viking is out, so can also push those 2 Overlords away. And this is where, like, the big fear for the Terran, like, the biggest thing that can kill you, as we've seen multiple times today between the Kelazur games and Vindicta, is those big roach attacks. Because the setup here, you have a lot of resources coming in from those 3 command centers. You got the Hellions, you're going to have the Battlecruiser, but you don't really have a strong presence to defend. Battlecruisers are not really good at defending. It's all about getting in, being annoying, and being harassing. And, wow, that Overlord kind of barely slipped past where that Viking was going by.
Very unfortunate Viking so far, looking for Overlords, not finding one, even though there were technically 2 Overlords quite close to the base. Now the double upgrades are on the way for Scarlett, and even though that hatchery was delayed for a while, Scarlett, her economy is actually looking quite fine right now, Nate. She's already passing the 60 drone mark in the next few seconds, and there is only a single Battlecruiser on the way.
Yep, so that's the production follow-up to this is what becomes really important. Like, is MaSa going to try and steer back into bio out of this? We're going to see him drop down the double factory. These 2 guys on the 3rd base tell me that we will most likely see him get factory soon. And he starts up Cloak. Because there's no Fusion Core in this base, the Overseer Scout is not going to know that it's a Battlecruiser until the Battlecruiser comes out.
I'm not sure if Scarlett is really falling for it, but we'll see. This skirmish did not really work out for MaSa in the middle of the map. I mean, that is a big economic advantage for Scarlett, though. 17 drones up. I'd love to see Scarlett go up to 4 bases here, actually, as well. I don't really see any reason not to.
Nope. There's really nothing. There's nothing that can pressure that base. If she starts it fast enough, then even if the BC teleports straight to it, like, she'll have enough time to get the queens over there. Yeah. But this concerns me a little bit. The BC's going to finish, and is he going to teleport it right in? She didn't see it, but this is going to time out really awkwardly, though, Kev, because that Spire is almost done. So if that first BC dies, from the games that I've been able to watch earlier today, I basically just talked Pig's ears off, like, oh my God, you absolutely cannot lose that first BC for any reason, and he's going to steer it out. I'd like to see him maybe try to focus a drone or 2 more and just get out of there. You don't want to lose it to the Queens, but Corruptors are going to be on the way very soon, and this is, if you're Scarlett and you get that first Battlecruiser kill, there are few things better than that at the start of a StarCraft game.
It's not the bad Battlecruiser so far. 2 queens, 4 drones, right? It's
but if he loses
something.
it...
Yeah, I get it, Nate. Well, I'm looking at that tactical jump. The Corruptors are nowhere near out yet, so I think MaSa is going to be okay for now. Especially if he starts flying it away at this point. That's a lot of Hellions, and I'm going to maybe try to go for a little drive-by, especially if all the queens are out of position, right? But we do have a couple of Banelings. Baneling speed already done. As you guys can see, those Banes are rolling.
All right, so the BC is heading back. That's important. The Corruptors, even if they were to go straight to it now, would not have enough time, so the tactical jump is off cooldown. And, man, I love that we get to see all the skins, by the way, here. Those BCs look sick. So Infestation Pit, Roach Warren, these things not crazy surprising. One of the ways that we've seen Zergs deal with this, right? Big, overwhelming Corruptor, Roach, Ravager attacks can do a lot, get a little bit of the map control, and also the Infestors, right? The Neural Parasite can be quite strong for stealing the BCs, burning the tactical jump cooldown, and whatnot.
I actually really like the combination of Fungo and Corrosive Bow. It can actually even land on Battlecruisers quite often, and we've seen several in the past take down like so many BCs with that sweet combo.
Yeah, I really liked in that last series y'all were casting with using the tactical jump and then timing that with the Corrosive Bile. The BCs are pretty big. It's not too hard to hit them when they can't teleport away.
Indeed. Well, Hive Tech is on the way for Scarlett. MaSa at least has sort of caught up economically. Obviously, Scarlett's been investing in her own infrastructure and upgrades and that kind of stuff. And 83 drones is probably pretty much as high as she wants to go right now. And you can't really blame her for that because you want to leave some space for army supply. And MaSa is starting to get the army that he really wants, with a couple of additional Battlecruisers on the way, extra factories on the way. We see Blue Flame, double armory. By the way, there's one thing that really stood out to me about the Vindicta games is that Vindicta actually played like a single armory kind of style and only got armor. Yeah. And I asked him about it. I was like, did something go wrong? He's like, no, that's just the way I like to play it, so I can get extra factories up and get more factory units out and stuff. But I think upgrades in general are so important for those mech units as well.
No, I totally agree with you. And it has a big implication on fights like Hellions versus Zerglings once they start to fall behind. find in those Carapace upgrades, then the Hellions, even with Blue Flame, won't two-shot them. And that has a pretty big impact when you're dealing with lots of them, or even when you're trying to get those Hellbats to one-shot the Lings with the higher tier upgrades at the end. And honestly, if you don't care about the mech upgrades, the battlecruisers benefit a ton from those ship weapons, and it's still going to help your Liberators or your Vikings later on against things like Broodlords. But we see MaSa now establishing himself, getting that push onto that fourth base. He has a few of the Cyclones just locking onto the army, not really trying to focus down the base just yet. And those Banelings are going to trade out against a couple of the Hellions.
Scarlett's got a lot of minerals in the bank, but barely any gas, Nate. I really wonder what happened there. That is a Fungo that does connect, though, and that's a very sweet one. Immediately, a couple of Hellions, and those two Cyclones will go down as well. But Scarlett maybe get a... There's no way that all of the extractors are up and running, right? That's just not possible. No, these are not saturated yet. I'm actually kind of shocked to see Scarlett have just no gas at all.
It is quite odd. She has plenty of larvae, 6 corruptors. I don't know that you want to turn those into broodlords without building a few more supporting corruptors, though. The thing about the battlecruisers, and the reason why it's so important to retain them here, is these Cyclones lock onto this base, is the Yamato can be sick against that too. I'm really surprised Scarlett didn't even try to pull forward on that. She's just not spending the resources she has. No, I'm confused too, Kevin.
Yeah, now 64 Lings are on the way, because you probably want to build something, because Scarlett probably looks at its army. No, those units are actually trapped in a corner, and that's not a fight that Scarlett can take. Okay, the corrosive balls will connect a little bit. Do we have enough corruptors here to win the fight? I think the answer is no. A lot of Lings do show up, though, and Lings are very good against Cyclones, so the Lings actually came in very, very handy there. But that's still a very painful and costly fight for Scarlett. Another Infesta goes down. These Corruptors go down.
Impatience, indecisiveness. You mentioned the huge mineral bank, but with all that larva sitting there, just didn't have any units for it. And this push has done tremendous damage. And the thing is, if you're MaSa, you have no reason to do anything other than just continue to chip away at this army until you are ready to just tactical jump out when they get low on health. Bring the Cyclones over and try to grab some of the Corruptors too while you're at it.
Yep, I mean, it is very good for Scarlett that most of the Cyclones went down before against those Zerglings. Otherwise, you can't even pull off moves like this. Scarlett does get 2 battlecruisers in the end, and that is fantastic news for her, but gets to go up the high ground here. Corrosive Balls will take care of that tank. Well done.
Yeah, the base pick off that huge army kill. I'd normally be like, okay, we talk about battlecruisers dying. They do scale really well as that number goes up. The Broodlords are going to be slightly more effective because of that, but how many can she actually afford to get out? We just have 1 on the way right now.
Fungo whiffs there. It doesn't really connect with anything. A couple of these units were still low on HP from the previous fight. That's a much better Fungo, though, for Scarlett. So these Cyclones are actually quite expensive units. So it's very, very nice to get the pick off on a couple of them. And even these Hellions will go down. We do have advanced ballistics on the way from MaSa. Scarlett survives, and that's very nice. And now she can sort of get like her economy in place, right? Finally, we do have enough gas. We have more Infestors. I was starting to get very worried at one point. I'm like, if these Lings get fried by like 1 good volleys of these Hellions, this could very well be game over. I'm glad to see the game didn't end there.
And we have 3 battlecruisers on the map. And I mean, the couple that she was able to grab are really huge, by the way, because dealing with 3 versus 5 is like with just how fast they attack. That those BCs scale insanely well. Now, some Hellions and Cyclones are going to come over towards this base. Couple of drones are going to get toasted, but there's plenty of Lings. You got Spine Crawlers, Spores, and Scarlett being fast on the creep shed. Now, securing this space will be really nice. Those 2 rich Vespine geysers. Well, you talk about needing gas, Roddy. She's going to have too much of it in a moment.
Yep, and now the Infestor count is obviously looking a lot better already than it was before. I do think that this base is most likely going to get cancelled because I don't see enough anti-air here to prevent that. But Scarlett is getting a much better army than she worked with before. I was generally very worried there. I was like, oh my goodness, imagine if this game ends here with like all the bases, 2.5k minerals in the bank. That would be so silly, but taking care of the Cyclones really allowed these Corruptors to take care of those battlecruisers you just mentioned, and it makes such a big difference. The Infestors are coming, you gotta get the hell out of there, MaSa.
So she unburrowed them. She doesn't have, does she have Neuroparasite? Okay, yeah, she just started it. That was the first thing. I'm like, why would she unburrow them if she was she can't. So the fact that she had to unburrow to get the fungals off, well, that's just gonna make it easier for the BCs to see them and tactical jump out.
What's the Infestor count right now? This is going to be a scary army to tackle. I like how simple the army is of MaSa. He's like, I've got BCs, Cyclones, and Hellions, okay? That's going to be it. Meanwhile, Scarlett has like a little bit of everything, but I'm kind of feeling this army of MaSa. If Neuroparasite does not connect with... Oh, okay, well, those are... Jesus. Those are fungals that are a little bit too big, Nate.
Those are pretty insane fungals, and the Infestors still have plenty of energy. Now, they are not in position for the BCs coming to this base. So should be able to get some damage done here. Maybe he waits for the tactical jump cooldown.
I cannot believe that all of the Cyclones and Hellions just disappeared to 2 Fungals and all those Banes. That is ridiculous.
Gotta be careful stepping on the creep, Kev. But 3 BCs being built at the time, as well as Liberators. So kind of reminds me a little bit of...
Maru.
Yeah, that Maru style that we actually saw a while back with the Liberator range to cover against the Infestors. But, oh, that Fungal's so useful. Even if you don't Neural Parasite, the Battlecruiser cannot teleport while it is being Fungal growth. So quite a bit of losses there. I think that's 3 Battlecruisers that just died.
Don't forget about all the Cyclones and Hellions that just went down as well on the right top side. So MaSa taking a couple of very unfortunate fights. Mapu is showing us as well that he has been losing more resources up to this point. Shout out to our man Mapu, of course. He's doing all the observing by himself this weekend.
What a base god.
Absolutely.
What a god.
He's warming up for Homestead Cup. He's like, yeah, then I'm going to do 5 times as much. And it's like, that's right, Mapu. This is like...
Homestead Cup's not just a tournament of passion. It's also, it's like the endurance test run, right? It's the two-a-days before the season starts.
Yeah, exactly. Mapu's getting in shape, and that's good.
Hellions shooting a Burrowed Roach. I am upset.
It's going to take a while. Now, we do have advanced ballistics, and this is where things can get very annoying, right, for Scarlett, because Corruptors are not the fastest units in the game. They're not slow, but if, like, you know, the Corruptors are on the top side of the map, and then a Liberator shows up, starts harassing your middle line, this could become super annoying, but fortunately for Scarlett, MaSa was kind enough to put a Liberator above a Sport Crawler.
And this is a big moment now because the Battlecruiser count is getting to scary numbers, and he has upgrades for them. They're at 2-2, and if they can get an engagement... Now, scanning and seeing those Infestors, that's really, really big. Wait, he jumps. Okay. Oh, he wants to try and just grab these Queens.
Whoa, okay. Well, where are the Liberators? You need Liberators now, right? To zone out the Infestors. Corrosive Bow is not going to connect with those BCs, and that's of course, the way it's supposed to be.
That's a really bold move to make, but now the Liberators are going to be able to cover against some of them, and as long as he continues to scan and doesn't have his units get grabbed, then these BCs will be able to do tons of damage. And weirdly enough, she can't remove them from the battle either because their tactical jumps off cooldown. So you can try to fungal them, you can try to neural parasite them, but as long as the supporting units keep that from happening, they're going to do tons of damage. And I think he just sends them over to the rich gas base, and that's a huge grab. Great burrow, by the way, for Scarlett to save the drones.
A couple of Infestors actually got picked up there as well. The Infestors were a little bit exposed. I would have actually liked to see the Battlecruisers try to fight that. One parasitic bomb did connect. No, don't put it back in the pack.
I think there's a bug on my windshield.
The Infestor count is not that high, right? Is that it? No way. Wow,
just 7.
Can MaSa just fight in it? Am I crazy? I think you can just fight that.
I think we're getting there. They don't... I have a lot of anxiety when it comes to Battlecruisers fighting Corruptors.
I would take that fight.
I would only agree with you looking at the upgrades. The plus two against no flyer carapace helps, but the Battlecruisers also are going to be dealing with infested Terrans and whatnot, and possibly the Spore Crawlers. So it's just like how many different things can they all shoot at? If the Liberators are able to support, then I do like it, but they get hit by that Corrosive Bile, and this is where it starts to get stressful because they all aren't actually repaired either.
Well, a couple of infested Terrans do get spawned, but that's really not that much. So here we go. The BCs can maybe take on a fight. The corruptor count is still very high, though, and those last 4 or 5 BCs have to get the hell out of there. But the good news there for MaSa is that MaSa took care of almost all the infestors, or maybe took care of all of the infestors, actually. And that means that the next fight should be a lot more doable.
Yeah, I think the big goal is you want to really just, if you can get rid of the Broodlords, then those Cyclones are able to bully the Corruptors away. But Battlecruisers just do not trade well against Corruptors. They're best used when you're attacking, you're shaving off units, you're using those Yamatos to trim the Corruptor count and then teleporting home. But on the defensive side, Battlecruisers, they don't trade super well. Since that upgrade lead was so big, he's going to be able to pick off them, and that's the most important part because now nothing can fight against this. Now, how fast are the reinforcements going to be able to arrive for Scarlett is the big question.
And how many Corruptors do we have? Okay, that looks like a very reasonable amount. So one more Battlecruiser does go down. The Broodlords are all still here. MaSa's losing bases, and MaSa is actually very, very broke. Liberators are finally here, but they are a little bit late to the party. They'll get some splash damage off, but it's most likely not going to be enough. MaSa just losing all of his key units.
Yeah, and the Corruptors, while eventually being destroyed, we're going to see more just rallied across the map. And even with that splash damage against the Broodlords, against the Corruptors, if Scarlett's able to continue this push, it's going to be incredibly hard to stop the next round of Corruptors from starting to also use the the caustic spray on the buildings. All MaSa has is a Cyclone, 6 Liberators, and a Viking.
And a dream.
And a dream.
Or call it a nightmare, because MaSa is losing more and more production facilities as well. Has lost a bunch of SUVs. I think that, Nate, I think this is going to be it. I just don't really see MaSa being able to stop the army of Scarlett here. Even though Scarlett is slowly but steady running out of anti-air, Cyclones are going to be annoying. It was well done. Very, very well done, I think, by Scarlett. It looked a bit dicey. It looked scary from time to time. But in the end, Scarlett gets a very clutch, important victory there.
She did a really good job of forcing the engagement against the battle cruisers in the middle position. After he flew over the Rich Vespine Geyser base, he got some damage done, but first of all, she didn't lose everything that she had there, but she gets the infestors on the flank and forces that battle. Battle cruisers cannot teleport while they are under the effect of fungal growth, so being able to just get 1 or 2 of them, when the army becomes that heavy on BCs, you really need to be super careful with where you take that fight, because the Corruptors, unless you've got like 6 or 7 missile turrets under the BCs, they are going to love that head-to-head engagement.
It really felt that the Liberators didn't really participate in the battle at all until the very end, right? Like, there were a couple of Libs here and there. They were sieged up, but they often got picked off before the battles even started.
Yep.
Those Ravagers were able to snipe them. The Corruptors were able to snipe
super clumped.
the stray Liberators. So in the end, it was just the BCs. And yes, there were a couple Cyclones, but like you said, those Cyclones, they had no chance because there were a million Broodlords out there as well. And then obviously the Cyclones can only do one thing, and that is run.
Yep. In a situation like that, it's really tough because the Corruptors don't really push on their own that well. So it's like, okay, use the Broodlords to break down the turrets, and then the Broodlords are also going to push back the Cyclones. So ideally, you're like, well, I want to kind of hide by that planetary, by those turrets, and just try to Yamato the Broodlords and then pull back, and the Corruptors have to you have to turn more of them into Broodlords, and that's one way to burn through the Zerg bank. Or you need to have so many battle cruisers that you can Yamato 10 Corruptors down at a time, and then still be able to make an actual push.
I still think there was that one moment where the 2 upgrades were done already from MaSa. The infestor count was pretty much non-existent. It was like 4 or 5. I feel like if you Yamato the infestors there, then it would have taken the fight against the 0 or maybe 1-0 upgraded Corruptors, but no flyer carapace. I actually think that at least it would have been a decent trade, but I actually think it would have been a victory, but we'll never have the answer to that question.
We'll never have the answer to that question. All we can see is what's going to happen now as we are loaded into World of Sleepers in the top right. The blue Terran player, he is MaSa!
What do you think was going through the mind of the map maker when he's like, I've made a beautiful map. How am I going to call my new map? The World of Sleepers.
He envisioned many turtleneck games.
Right.
He's like, well, you've got an easy 3rd, possibly easy 4th. Well, people are going to go to bed on this one. In the bottom left, fighting back, the Red Zerg. She is Scarlett.
Love the passion of our Canadian audience here. It's early. We've got a long day ahead of ourselves. Pace yourself, guys. I know TvZ gets exciting. 2 Canadians on stage. It gets exciting, but we still have a very long day of StarCraft ahead of us.
Yes, we do. The good things in life. StarCraft, poutine, all that wonderful magic, Roddy. All that wonderful magic. I'm not going to pretend I didn't have some cheeky fries last night. It was some good, after how late we finished, some good times. But I'm interested to see already something different, by the way. MaSa going for a gasless Rax expand. And this is something that is slowly working its way back into the meta. You do this for 2 reasons. A, you're going to SCV scout. And B, you want to get the Overlord kill early on. Those are like the 2 biggest things that you can do out of this build. So the SCV has to scout. Doing this without an SCV scout, you're going to die to almost any all-in because you're just not going to know that it's coming. You're not going to be able to prepare.
It's a 3CC opening as well, though, right?
Yeah, you can be really greedy out of this is the advantage. And that's why you want these Marines to come forward.
To the left, to the left. Everything you want in...
A box to the left. Well, I guess like a
in the sky.
little high ground to the left, I guess you could say. But the 2 Marines find the Overlord, and this is really nice because the 3rd Marine, if it comes over, should be able. I think it shouldn't even be able to make it to that spot.
No.
But worst case scenario, you can pull the old Lift-A-Reno on that command center. But there's the 3rd
That's a
CC.
Nate move, huh?
Oh yeah, that's an Athenius move. Other people have done it. I saw TY.
I can't believe you're trying to tell people they should be...
MaSa lifted his barracks. He lifted the barracks.
Yeah,
before.
lifting the barracks is one thing, Nate. You're talking about floating command center.
Mate, a kill is a kill is a kill. If you can tilt your opponent by killing their overlord, lifting your command center, it's worth it. How many minerals is tilt worth? That's the real question, Roddy.
I don't know. I'd be very untilted if I see a command center floating. So. But yeah, MaSa going for a very economic build there. I mean, I hope that Happy is watching. I know he's playing some Warcraft tournament right now, but this really gives me the Happy vibes. This is the opening he did for 3 years straight in this matchup. And eventually he's like, man, I always get blind count. It's like, oh yeah, if you do it every single game you have played. But
was it Happy 4GG cost?
Yeah,
oh, they all love that 3CC build. And the way that he's done it too, sneaks in that extra that barracks real quick. So it's not like you do the normal 3CC into like 1-1-1. This is probably the greedier version of it, because if you were being attacked, you're not going to have anything like tanks or Hellions. And that's kind of why it's also important to get rid of that overlord early on. It's a crazy greedy 3CC into a 2-1-1. So it's just going to hit a little bit later.
Yep.
But if he gets away with it and he executes it properly, then the potential for insane damage, and we already saw what he was able to do when he was super greedy on, I think, Ephemeron earlier.
Yep.
Like, that's, you know, we've seen him capitalize on it before.
Steam is on the way. It's a good scout so far by Scarlett. Scarlett sees that second barracks as well, right? Can we just confirm that real quick, Mapu? I'm pretty damn sure that she did.
Yeah.
Didn't see the tech lab, but I guess you can figure it out. There's got to be a tech lab somewhere. And most of the time it's kind of hit, hey, that's a roach one. And a spine crawler, Nate. What are we, is this a misread then? Or why the spine?
Did she see the third command center? That might be the only thing that if she missed the third CC, she might think that there was already an add-on on that barracks at the ramp, and that it's actually just like a really big like 3-1-1 type play where it's like a 2 base 3 racks.
It's like a TvZ.
I'm gonna try. yeah, exactly. Like I'm just gonna try and kill you with a lot of units early on. I think she may have canceled that spine crawler because that's not necessarily what you want to have in this situation. Overlord's going to fly back around. The Lings poke the natural. Seeing 2 engineering bays, by the way, is really important for Scarlett, even without knowing about the third command center. Double eBay just says, okay, well, I'm not going to be hit by one of these crazy...
but do you like the roach one? I prefer a Baneling Nest, no?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. For dealing with the Marines, like, unless she had like a specific type of all-in in mind, that was going to be roach-based.
Also, just like stylistically, I feel Scarlett is so much better when it comes to like Ling, Bane, Muda than she is with Roaches and Ravages, and then I guess Infestors into Broodlords maybe, but I don't know, that just doesn't really feel Scarlett to me.
No, it does not. I'm waiting for that Baneling Nest to start after you mentioned it. Okay, well, it's going to be ranged attack upgrades. I don't...
Roach Hydra Infestor.
She knows what's happening. She saw the barracks, she saw the Marines and the engineering base. There's no confusion about it. So Sasha just wants to play this one a little bit differently, it would seem.
69 drones, by the way, with a Roach opening against a pretty quick stim, even though it is a 3CC build. Feels quite adventurous. It really does feel quite adventurous what Scarlett is doing here.
With good control, MaSa can really punish this. You don't have the dedicated anti-air that Mutalisks afford you, and you don't have the mobility that the Zerglings afford you. So it's just straight into an infestation pit.
Nate, there's a lot of high ground, low ground here as well. Like, if this was Beyond, and I'm casting a game 2 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, this game is over. These Marines are actually going to kill absolutely everything. Now, it's not going to be that easy for MaSa. Every second that goes by is a good one for Scarlett. Obviously, the 1-1 upgrades are going to be very big. Here is that first scan. It's important for Scarlett to send those queens to safety. And I think they're gone already.
Yeah, so the infestation going in there. Finally, the Baneling Nest starts. Interesting things happening here on World of Sleeper. No, wait, does he just go straight for the hive?
The units are pretty far out of position, by the way, I think. Okay, a couple of roaches. Can the Marines fight that? Okay, now there's extra roaches actually spawning, so...
There's going to be like a second where he's ahead on upgrades, so the roaches, he can actually kill them pretty quickly before the carapace is done.
If that fight happens like 6 seconds later, by the way, it's so much better indeed for those Marines. Then I actually think the Marines do win that fight. Now, at the same time, MaSa's going to try to hit the fort base over here on the top side. Scarlett just made 12 more drones, Nate. It's just me, or is that nuts?
No, it's crazy. This is a very weird game.
I
More
find
lings
that
being
so
added.
crazy.
Ravagers, like Ling Ravager Bane is not going to be like against a well-constructed bio army. Like the bio is just going to be more cost-effective than the Roach Ravager part of it.
These Marines should go back into the main base now, and then at the same time, those Marines are hitting
Yeah.
on the left top side. And I think Scarlett is in a lot of trouble. If you're playing Roaches, you don't want to lose your fourth base. Yeah, that was nuts, man. That
Yeah,
was
and even
really
then,
crazy.
some of these drones still coming over too. So MaSa getting lots of damage done. And think about it this way too, Kev. The late +1 melee, like these Zerglings are just not going to be as effective in a head-to-head fight against the Marines. So the only fast units that Scarlett has are just not as good as they would be in a normal situation in trying to deal with these forces.
I think Scarlett is incredibly good in StarCraft in general, but with these kind of unit compositions, that I just don't feel that that's what she excels at, right? Like that's another cancel on this fourth base as well. I like Scarlett so much more with a lot of Lings and a lot of Banes, and we're gonna get there eventually. But this was not a strong last 2 minutes or so.
No, the Hive is done, so Scarlett can go straight into like Adrenal Glands if she wants, but I mean, the Zerglings aren't really that crazy upgraded, so is it some other sort of tech that we go for? And the resources lost. Well, neither side's lost too much, but look at this. Almost 60 Marines, and Scarlett is making 4 Banelings at the moment. That's going to be all she has.
Blinding Cloud, baby.
Yeah, that's not going to do a lot against Marines and Widow Mines, Rotterdam.
If obviously Scarlett can get out an Ultra or two, then it's all going to be okay, but it's really hard to afford 3-base Ultras. I mean, there was a patch once upon a time that was okay, but MaSa's army is strong. MaSa's going to find a couple of these Banes in a morphing here. The Ravagers feel very exposed as well.
Oh my God.
Scarlett is in so much trouble.
With Drilling Claws being done too, these Widow Mines can be able to cement themselves. There's the drop inside of the main base, that Viper in danger. And this is the thing. You're not playing with tanks. You're not playing with mech units. The Marines can just run forward and just fight the Ravagers. Just go up close. Don't run away.
I feel like everywhere we're looking, MaSa is actually doing some pretty good damage. There's a couple of Marines here. They're going to gun down these drones. I think there was something in the main base before. I'm kind of impressed that Scarlett was able to pick off as many Marines as he was in the end. But I'm absolutely not going to call it a victory for Scarlett because I still think she's in quite some trouble.
This army composition is just very well rounded by MaSa. The Ultralists won't be bad. Oh my God, those mines, they're doing what they need to do. Drilling Claws is just really nice to have because it's just not something that we see enough of where Zergs are on top of it. They're not all over it like you would be back in the day when it was the thing to do every single game.
I mean, Scarlett is still on 71 drones, and there are Ultras on the way, and Kindness is halfway done. And if Scarlett makes it until Kindness is finishing up and she's got those Ultras, I actually think it's still somewhat playable. It's an uncomfortable game for the Zerg for sure, and I really don't like Scarlett, her position. But with Ultras, I do believe that the dream is a tiny bit alive.
Yeah, however, these Ravagers are not going to be able to make it on their own. The Widow Mines still in play here. Really loving what I'm seeing. Liberator harassed at the northwest base. And we talk about the mobility, the units that you have that you need to use here. Well, the Ravagers are all coming to support this Ultra, but without Chitinous, it dies immediately. MaSa is going to lift up, and those Banelings going to get erased by the Widow Mines.
Oh, there's another Widow Mine there as well. The drop in the main base is going to be annoying.
Oh,
this
man.
Liberator has done so much damage. It's not just the 6 drones, it's the lost mining time that really hurts Scarlett
It's even
right
killing
now.
the larva. You know, trying to build those units is going to be a little bit more difficult. You need everything here. Parasitic Bomb on the medevac, it's cute, but is that the game changer for this fight? No. The Widow Mines have been securing themselves really nicely too. Not really Overseer play, just trying to smite them with the corrosive vials. But even going back to mining on this base, Liberator gets a bunch more pickups.
Yep. It's very nice. MaSa is looking for an opening though. Kindness plating is done, like you said. They 10 more drones immediately on the way. Scarlett has so few units and ends up losing one of her Vipers there as well. That's painful.
That's really rough. She tries to rebuild this hatchery, and of course that's going to be in danger to those handful of Marines. Then also MaSa's like, well, I'm just going to drop in your main base while you're doing that.
Don't forget about the fort base as well. We've got a few more Marines showing up.
He's hitting in the north. He's hitting in the south.
He's hitting in the north and the south.
This Ultra's going to come out, and even with those upgrades, that +3 attack is going to be finishing soon for MaSa. He's got so much to work with. Drones dying left and right. That northwest base under heavy fire, and just focusing down the workers in the face of that Ultralist is going to be able to cleave through those Marines. Well, MaSa has built himself a sexy supply lead. He also got up to the 3 starports, so expect big Liberator counts as this Fusion Core finishes and we see advanced ballistics come on the field.
How many hatcheries have been cancelled this game? Like, not that many have been killed, but I do believe that 4 or 5 have been cancelled. +3 attack is now ready for our Canadian Terran play, and look at all of these units streaming down the middle of the map. And like you said, there are starports behind all of this, so it's not even that it's like it's now or never for MaSa. Like, no, MaSa actually has a follow-up plan. Well, what happened to those mains there?
You just got that Widow Mine that
What?
she hit with the Biles, went off at the last second on the Ultralisk, killed all the banelings around it.
Okay.
That's not fun times for the Zerg player. And these mines are actually taking big chunks out of the Ultras, helping that bio so much. Good Marauder count mixed in as MaSa continues to push up 70 supply into Scarlett's natural. There is just a single Ultralisk trying to defend against this base, but it is not going to be enough. Another one shows up. MaSa picks up, falls back to the Widow Mines, and another round of bio is here to try and punch this one in to give our Canadian Terran the lead. He has done it. GG! MaSa goes up 2-1 against Scarlett.
That was a very, very impressive game, and that's kind of the MaSa that we know as well. When MaSa's in shape, he is hitting everywhere at once. He's got cool little unique openings. He keeps his opponent guessing in general, and then once those production facilities really kick in, he's hitting the north, he's hitting the south, he's everywhere. He's in the middle of the map. I think MaSa played a phenomenal game there. Scarlett felt a tiny bit out of her element. Like, I just don't like those kind of openings from her. I don't know why she went for the roaches, but I don't even think this is a particularly great map for roaches.
Yeah, it did feel like she was trying to cover a lot of ground with an army that just really wasn't that mobile while trying to tech up. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we are going to go to a quick break. When we return, the conclusion of MaSa versus Scarlett. You're watching WCS Fall. to the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series. We are live here from Montreal as we try to find out who is going to be making it to Championship Sunday here at the World Championship Series. Kevin, we're in a pretty intense best of 5 so far.
Absolutely, MaSa really bringing the heat. Just playing a couple of very cool builds, trying to keep Scarlett in the dark for as long as he can. And the execution is really good. As soon as he gets plenty of units to work with, he really does find a way. He's all over the place, not making it obvious. I just love what I'm seeing here. And for Scarlett, it's going to be tricky. But, I mean, she already won one map. Thunderbird looked pretty damn good on her side, even though it was a tiny bit dicey at one point as well. Scarlett absolutely capable of making comebacks, though. We've seen that in the past. And hopefully, for a lot of her fans here, she can do it one more time, Nate.
That's right. People looking to see it happen as we move into game number 4 on Triton. Yeah. And we have our blue Terran player currently leading the series 2-1 in the Northwest. He is MaSa. Against this player in the Southeast, a fan favorite, our Canadian in the red. Can she make it? Can she bring it back? She is Scarlett.
I'm wondering, right? Obviously, Scarlett was a bit confused about the things that she scouted early on in the previous map. Didn't see that command center at first. We even saw the spine crawler against a triple CC opening, which is obviously not something that Scarlett would normally do. Do you think she made the roaches because he was worried it was some crazy, very early stim all-in with just a lot of Marines? And maybe Scarlett thought that if she goes for banings there, she won't have baning speed in time, and if these banes don't connect, and maybe that's why she opened Roach War, Nate?
It's the only thing I can think, right? Like, the 3 racks opener off of 2 base is something that, especially out of a gasless opening, like there's no Reaper, no Hellions. So you have to be asking yourself, like, well, how many Marines can you really have if these barracks were built immediately after the command center? And the answer is a lot.
Yep.
It's not like Terran players never do builds like that. So that's the only reason I can see you build a spine crawler, because there's only 2 scenarios where Zerg builds a spine, and that's if you're being rushed with like that, or if you're going for Mutalisks really quickly and you don't want the Terran to kill you with Hellions. So she ended up canceling it, but it didn't end up being like the biggest deal because, well, MaSa has played really well with his bio, which is a bit odd for me to say because I feel like we have a lot of Terrans that they'll try the bio game, and like I said, we've been leaning a lot more on mech-type strategies or these battlecruiser rushes across the board. Some players have had success with it, but MaSa's been playing really well with his Stim Marines this game.
I know you really love your BCs, Nate, but I'm happy to still see quite a few bio openings. Like MaSa, I think, has always been a Terran player that has been very, very good with his bio units. And we saw Kalazur early today as well, also busting out a bio build and also had some success with it. Yeah. Like, he was very effective as well for quite some time. So we'll see. Now, Triton is a map that I would say is a little bit smaller than some of the other maps, but it's still a big map. Don't be mistaken. And we've got a lot of rocks in the middle of the map as well, so could be awkward.
Yeah, I mean, playing around the sides is going to be important. There is that Xel'Naga Watchtower in the middle of it. And I feel like we haven't actually had too many maps with the Watchtower in like the dead center like that in quite a while. Of course, there's some pathways that just kind of naturally go around it, but as the time goes by, those rocks get broken down, pathways get opened up, and so on. But MaSa's going back to his greedy old ways here, Roddy. He's been sticking with it, that fast 3rd command center. Yep. Terran players are most comfortable when they have 3 orbitals. That is... it's a scientifically proven fact.
What I like as well
much you can do.
Is how patient MaSa plays these games, where even though we see all the numbers right, and there are moments where MaSa's like 17, almost 20 workers behind. You're like, oh my goodness, like, yeah, you went for that strong economic opening, but Scarlett really capitalized on her freedom, and now she's actually the one with the much better economy. But then there's always that moment where Zerg suddenly has to invest into buildings, has to invest into the infrastructure, and that's when MaSa really catches up economically. And we do have another very early Roach Horn, by the way, Nate.
Yeah, and then to me, based on what she's seen, I mean, you have to be thinking about the aggression, right? Because there's Hellions on the map, there's Reacted Factory. Roaches, they're going to be good against the Hellions. These things poke forward, and maybe you're thinking that there's a possible BC rush coming again. And if that's the case, then going for a fast Ravager timing could be really strong.
Oh, Banshee.
MaSa's just going to build a Banshee. And I Man, I think this is like the rotation of, right, the 200 IQ trying to mitigate each other play.
yeah.
Like, you might think that this is going to be like Hellion Banshee and you could get some roaches, or like Hellion BC. But if I start the Banshee immediately and I get a second Banshee as well, like 2 Banshees are going to shut down a Ravager or Roach timing really effectively compared to the Panic Banshee. It says this Overlord is going to die.
It's bad news. It's very bad news for Scarlett and all the Scarlett fans out there. These Hellions, sure, these Hellions will go down, but they might get a couple of drones. And like you said, 2 Banshees at home are going to keep MaSa safe. MaSa's doing some really good economic damage already. Those are massive shots, Nate. 14 drones have gone down. Scarlett was already quite committed. Now Scarlett is way more committed. And all that MaSa needs to do is keep building Banshees and throw up a bunker or 2.
I love it. The only thing, I'm just going to say this, MaSa, if the Banshee gets pushed back, go home.
Yes.
Right now, Scarlett is slamming the gas pedal. Everything is happening exactly the way that you would want. There we go. Banshee sees the Ravagers. This is perfect because he's already got that second one coming out. And I mean, barring a miracle corrosive bile, most of these Ravagers are going to be dead before they can even reach MaSa's base. And Scarlett at just 27 drones, Roddy.
Scarlett gives up on the attack, and this is not a moment where you ever want to give up on your attack, but Scarlett also knows there's simply no way that these Roaches, the Ravagers, and Lynx were going to end the game. So Scarlett's going to have to make an absolute miraculous comeback happen here against a 3cc opening, being down economically this much.
He sees the Lynx.
Yeah. I mean, there are a couple of Hellions, there's a bunker as well. I mean, sure, these Lynx are going to be annoying, but I really don't think they're going to achieve a lot at all, Nate.
Being distracting in this way is still really nice. There's just the 1 siege tank that's going to be coming up, and that could cause some friendly fire, but pulling the units back is really nice. If he had been able to get a wall up really quickly, that would have been sick.
I mean, it's 5 SCVs and a Marauder or so. I mean, yeah, sure, Scarlett got something there. Scarlett did buy some time for herself, and that's very important, but we're still looking at hatchery tech as well. There is no lair. Was that cloak, by the way? There was no
He
cloak.
had it researching.
Okay,
he finished
so that's so bad because there's no overseers.
Oh, yeah, that too. Third Banshee, I think he let finish as well. So the lair is just now starting. Spores are just now starting.
Oh, imagine if they
3
fly
Banshees can put on some pretty good pressure, even if there's just 1 Queen covering one of those bases.
Yeah, and the Queen count isn't that high because Scarlett made so many Roaches and Lynx to begin with. It's just 4 Queens. Oh, well, it's going to be okay because MaSa didn't know what we knew, but that could have been very, very dicey. But kind of showed the state that Scarlett was in as well. Scarlett did buy some time, though, right? With that little Ling run by, kept the Banshees at home. Otherwise, this game could have been over already.
Yeah.
It's still looking bad for Scarlett. I do think, you know, there is a chance.
Grabbing a Ravager there. Really nice.
Did it go down?
I think he got it. Yeah, nicely done.
Oh,
and
man.
Here's the thing: is Scarlett has to worry about her extractors now too. Like every vulnerable point is so big. That lair is going to be finishing soon with the amount of gas she has banked up.
Oh, no. Can't really afford to be losing queens because Scarlett doesn't have that many queens. These Banshees are wreaking havoc at this point. 2 queens going down. If this Spore Crawler goes down, I mean, there is an Overseer on the way now, but now even this hatchery is going to take a beating.
But the timing of that lair that you mentioned, Kev, she could not move the queens to the other base because she can't see these Banshees in the middle, and she would have lost both queens on the way over to her own third base. So now she's going for the anti-Phoenix strategy, which is just keep building drones as they die. But it's not a mech follow-up. It's bio, which is going to give MaSa the ability to hit with a huge attack soon. If MaSa was playing mech, then Scarlett could try to drag this out, but that is not an option. There's no Banelings. We just have a few Ravagers and Roaches coming out to try and fight against. It's going to be 1-1 bio, Kev.
Stim is done, MaSa stimming forward, and MaSa will most likely be stimming his way into the round of 16 here. An absolutely stunning performance by our Terran. He's hitting before the upgrades, but it doesn't matter because there simply is not much here for Scarlett. Queens have gone down, drones go down, most of the Roaches and Lynx have gone down.
And he's just going to continue to attack that base. The siege tank kind of cutting off the natural. Another tank is going to show up. The Ravagers are dead, and so are the drones. GG! MaSa takes the 3-1 victory over Scarlett.
MaSa said he's aiming for a top 8 this tournament. I was like, oh, top 8, that's very ambitious. But if MaSa keeps playing like this, it is absolutely possible. What a performance. I believe MaSa goes up versus Stefano, if I recall that correctly. I mean, that is a rather surprising round of 16, but I think a very exciting one, Nate.
And I kind of mentioned it at the start of the series, just really well done. Great play, great execution by MaSa to upset again. Let's hear from him on the main stage with Cloakin.
Thanks so much, Nathan. That's right, I'm here with MaSa. Congratulations! You advanced to the round of 16. How did you feel about your performance? Was that what you expected out of Scarlett?
No, not really, because recently, every time we played in Challengers, I lost. But prior to that, in the big tournament, WSG, I won against her. So I thought this might be the time to win in a big stage against her. So that feels good.
Well, you did it great and in front of a home crowd as well. So congratulations on that incredible diverse play. You looked very, very sharp. I know you sort of questioned where you were in our last interview on stage here, but you're looking fantastic. You advanced to the round of 16. You're going to face off against Stefano. How do you feel about him as an opponent in order to reach your goal for the round of 8?
Not too sure about him. However, I think it's going to be easier than Scarlett. So.
All right. Love it. I love the confidence. Congratulations. One more round of applause, please, for MaSa. Congratulations. We're back to you at the desk.
Big win for MaSa there, being able to move into the round of 16. And also with that, Scarlett's desires to get to the global finals are now gone. MaSa has shut those down as he looks to try and push on even further here in WCS fall. And it was a barn burner, Todd, because we had lots of drones dying towards the very end. MaSa in this last game had full control of every situation.
Yeah, he showed he wanted it more, and he was very well ready for this match, and that was some very convincing play out of him. And now he still has a chance to make it to the global finals. That's the dream right there, Kailas. That's what it's all about.
And he said that he thinks that Stefano might be easier in this next round.
I mean, I can see why.
Famous last words.
That.
Sorry.
No. I can see why you could say that, though. Like,
sure.
I mean, Scarlett has been someone that's beaten him in the past, and usually has very strong anti-bio play. But I think maybe she was expecting a lot of mech play, and it kind of was like a mental game that these guys play all the time.
Yeah.
But versus Stefano, well, Stefano's been on like a really hot streak this tournament. So is MaSa. We're actually having the two surprise, just like solid players too. It's not the cheeses getting them through. Solid players of this tournament now facing each other. But I do believe that MaSa with that TvZ would be better than Stefano's usual ZVT as far as I recall.
Yeah, but some pretty cool pressure. It was nice to see. Also, there have been other games going on whilst that one did happen as well. Todd, you've been watching a lot of our games. One of them, the series is still going on here
it's about
on
to
Jess's
conclude.
laptop. We need to jump over as fast as we can because it's been a crazy series, Todd.
Yes, I feel like I just know the other one.
Yeah, this one.
No,
Okay,
this
yeah.
one. Yeah.
I feel like, okay, this was 4D StarCraft here. Like, it feels like the players had a gentleman agreement where neither player was ever going to make a Nexus. Only in that last game did we see them expand a little bit. Like, but always went for like a 20 minutes lockdown into a lockout. He shaded the Adepts inside of the main base of Haz, and he blinked the Stalkers, and he dropped sentries on the high ground, and he locked him out outside of his own main base. And Haz had a bunch of Phoenixes, so he was able to counterattack the whole time, kill probes, and it was like some of the weirdest games I've ever seen. Like, honestly, like that was on one of the other streams. I hope you guys caught it. That was, I don't even know what to think about this. Like, those were there was a proxy in every single game. They barely ever expanded. Like, I don't know if at any time in this series we went over 30 probes for either player. They play a different brand of PvP over in Taiwan.
Yeah, they definitely do, but always came into the C region and actually did really well a lot off the PvP and very aggressive one-base PvP. So it's not too surprising to hear that happened against Haas, who we all know.
The true inspiration. Hit after hit after hit. Gets himself a 3-1 there, and he moves on to play it against Special. Let's check in with the bracket, actually, as that has just updated throughout all of this. And we will see up towards the top there. Haas gets himself that spot. Likewise, MaSa will be playing Stefano. Reina going up against Thermal in a 3-2 scorcher against Sortov in the previous round. That is quite the fixture, to say the least. And then Elaser against T-Drogo. How many mice will go bungee diving off the desk in that series? We can only hope.
You mean they're going to the trampoline? They're going to the bouncy castle.
Bouncy castle.
I had a little bit of T-Drogo versus Tembo as well, if you want to take a look at that. Like
Absolutely.
As shown on the bracket, it was a 3-0 for T-Drogo, but I have basically summarized here in the third game pretty much how the whole series went. T-Drogo got up to 4 bases and then hit a timing with a right amount of Immortals, Archons, and High Templars. And he really showed in this series how to attack against Zerg. Like, you don't want to attack with everything at the front. You also want to have a Prism on the other side, which is here, to really try and make the Zerg split wrong.
Yes.
It's so hard to split perfectly against that. How many roaches do you send in the main base? Like, it feels like you kind of need all of them against this many charge lots. But then in the other base, what's going on? Well, you're kind of losing everything. And then once you've lost that 4th base and all the drones that are there, you're a Protoss on 4 bases against a Zerg on 3 bases, and then you're just in a fantastic spot. So TvZ really showing, I think this series, his understanding of PvZ, and he looked absolutely fantastic. I mean, obviously here on this side it was defended, but he just got so far ahead from sniping this base and all of these drones here that after that, it was just kind of unlosable being on 4 bases himself.
3-0 is big against Lambo. Now he goes on to play against a Laser Jess, and that could go either way, to be perfectly honest.
Well, apparently Drogo made a tweet saying, you know, like, I slept really well yesterday, and then I didn't do well, and then I had really bad sleep today, and he's doing fantastic. So maybe it's the pressure, maybe it's actually like
I wish
being
MaSa
a little...
the best, right?
What? Oh, yeah.
Wish MaSa the best.
But he's it's great to have great PvZ. I mean, especially in these tournaments, but especially in the bracket that he has. I could very well see him winning against a Laser and then maybe even having Raynor as the next opponent. And Drogo is, again, one of those guys that is on the cusp of BlizzCon points. So this is his run. This is time to do it. Like, a Laser Drogo is actually an amazing matchup because of that story.
Yeah.
They're both so close to making it.
I'm trying to be quiet about the Frenchies doing well, because every time usually I'm like, yes, finally France is back, and then boom, they all drop out at the same time. So for now, I'm not going to say too much. We're going to wait for the semifinals.
Don't worry,
when they make it there, I'll jinx them, but not before.
I'll keep throwing French at you at any opportunity,
Oh, please,
Todd.
God,
It's
no.
no, don't you
mean,
appreciate my French efforts?
I don't.
Well, all right. I'll show you
Imagine what
pictures.
it's like.
I'll show you pictures of the dog
Oh,
later
it's
on, and
the,
you'll
it's
be
the thought
happy.
that counts.
It's the thought that counts. You're right. You're right. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. It's time now for a break, and when we return, we have our next series on the way. It's going to be time going up against Mana in that round of 24. It is another big fixture here for WCS Fall. So we'll see you right after this.